Well, let's get analysis with Bloomberg Intelligence senior analyst Robert Lee in Hong Kong. And Robert, he talked about how it's looking excellent. How will the current demand-supply dynamics drive Nvidia and the likely change over the next 1 or 2 years?
Yeah, great question. I think we're all sort of running out of superlatives to describe their performance, aren't we? And I'm sure investors are probably, breaking open the Moutai to celebrate another set of stellar results. I think the outlook for the company, the demand outlook for both the company and the industry is unquestionable. Again, this is a multi-year, multi-decade story. So no concerns on that front. The main sort of risk and question mark that's out there is on the supply side at the moment. There has been a supply bottleneck or a supply side bottleneck, mainly on the semiconductor fabrication side, coming from TSMC. On the results call, they did refer to that easing up slightly, so that will benefit them in the near term. But in the medium term, that should also benefit their main competitors, the likes of AMD, allow them to, potentially try to narrow the gap. So it's the supply side dynamics that people need to focus on over the next few quarters, and whether that easing of supply throughout the course of this year allows others to, as I say, catch up and narrow the gap.
Robert, Nvidia talked about how AI has reached a tipping point. What are the implications of that? And for companies here in Asia?
Yes, well, on the China side in Asia, clearly the export restrictions are impacting the ability of the likes of Baidu, Tencent and Alibaba to build out their own data centers. They're increasingly going to be relying on domestically sourced chips, of which are, 1 to 2 generations behind. And the inability of China currently to access leading-edge semiconductor technology, again, is a supply issue that they need to work through over the coming years. So that is clearly going to restrict their growth. More direct, or in terms of other Asian tech companies that should directly benefit from this, obviously there's a clear read across to TSMC, which again is at the crux of this supply issue. And the sentiment is a good read across for them. More widely speaking, across the sector, again, companies like ARM Holdings, again, should benefit. So I think, we're in a secular trend on AI, and that should continue for the foreseeable future.
Nvidia, clearly the current AI darling, has had a massive head start. Are there other names investors should be looking at?
Yeah, direct competitors to Nvidia, again, are arguably the likes of AMD, which is trying to catch up. But just casting my mind back to maybe earlier in my career, talked to a colleague who was covering the mining sector. Mining sector is notorious, trying to pick the winners and losers. Are their prospects real or not? Are they going to, once they start digging holes in the ground, are they going to find the gold or whatever resource they're after? Similarly, on the semiconductor side, Nvidia is clearly in the lead at the moment. But the analogy with the mining sector is, instead of maybe investing in mines themselves with all the inherent risk on that, why not invest in the companies that are supplying the picks and the shovels and the tools that all the mines will be using regardless of their long-term success? So if that analogy made sense, within the world of semiconductors, those pick and shovel and wheelbarrow makers are the likes of TSMC and ARM Holdings, because regardless of who is ultimately successful, they will be supplying tools and chips to those companies. So I think those two companies in particular are well placed to benefit financially over the next few years, regardless of Nvidia's long-term success or not.
All likely to be big winners. Bloomberg Intelligence senior analyst Robert Lee, we thank you so much for your assessment.